Hello everyone. I am thrilled to be here today to do another Agents of Transformation interview with my dear friend and colleague, Sheila Robinson-Kiss. She is a featured mental health expert, award-winning orator, and the author of 5 books. Sheila is a social entrepreneur who is focused on providing exceptional mental health education on a grassroots, national, and global scale. She is the founder of Divorce Boot Camp and the Rebalancing America and Beyond initiative, which is a national mental health and wellness platform dedicated to educating organizations, groups, communities, and individuals about self-help, health, and resiliency models. She has partnered with over 100 state and private agencies, including American Family Insurance, the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Boys and Girls Club of America, Wells Fargo Advisors, New Jersey Department of Families, Child Care Connections, and more. She delivers impactful programs that promote life productivity and balance. She is a voice urging world communities to take responsibility for how we live and work and feel. Sheila Robinson-Kiss is regarded as a super provider and educator in the health and wellness industry. Sheila is on a mission to give people the tools to adapt to the fast-paced, distraction-filled climate we live in and heal every aspect of our lives. And I'm so grateful to say that Sheila is my friend. And I'm thrilled to bring her here to you. I've waited for this interview. So Sheila, welcome to our Agents of Transformation interview series.
Oh, thank you so much, Melody. It's always wonderful to connect with you. Just an honor to sit with you, and I can't wait to dive in.
So I have recently experienced my own health challenges, which right at the anniversary of the lockdown here in Western North Carolina, just as we passed that anniversary, which, we may not mentally really understand the significance of something like that, but our bodies remember. Our
Yeah.
bodies remember these anniversaries. And just as we passed that anniversary, I realized that in addition to dealing with some significant health issues and having to suspend my active lifestyle, I was also experiencing burnout and depression. And so I decided to work with these as if I knew that these challenges were going to be a portal to expansion. And I would like to explore resilience. I've taken a wonderful trauma resiliency training, so I know a little bit about the resiliency model, and I'd like to explore that more with you. Are you online with me that these challenges can be portals to expansion?
I'm not only online with you, I'm there. I'm sitting on the couch, I'm in the parachute. I believe that with my whole heart, mind, body, spirit, soul, that depression, life is cyclical. So if you think you're going to make it out of here into the great beyond, without experiencing some dips, some valleys, good for you. I've not seen it yet in over 20 years doing this work. So my approach and my philosophy is very much in line with how you have decided to work with yourself around depression. To embrace it, that may be a bit of a strong word, but I think acceptance and understanding that if I'm going to be in this cycle, which is very much a part of just our human evolution, repurposing that. What is this energy trying to tell me? Is it slow down? Is it just all about let's not try to escape Because sometimes depression can just mean a dip. Sometimes it can mean real, true, and profound sadness.
Yeah.
So is there an invitation for me to do something I call cocooning for
Yes.
clarity? I call it cocooning for clarity. So we can come inside ourselves and really repurpose that time for some deep nurturing, self work, and then get all the juice. When life gives you lemons, start making lemonade. Get everything we can out of that time. I wrote an article for Psychology Today last year, and I also did a YouTube video. It's called Depressed and Productive. Both have the same titles. And I talk about a woman who had a horrible breakup, and she dipped so far. She ordered some pizza one day, and she was so just despondent. She said, "You know what? I'm not going to get up and throw it away." Then she ordered some other food the next day, and on and on. A year and a half went by. She had let all her housekeeping go. And that was the start of some serious hoard in her home. And as I was sitting with her in what used to be this massive, this beautiful home, I couldn't help but think, what if she had said, "You know what? I'm in this situation. I'm going to honor my sadness over losing this very important person in my life. But I'm just going to pick also one or two things that really do need to stay intact. I'm going to repurpose this as a cocooning time, but it doesn't mean I have to drop everything and move so far into the traditional definition of what we know depression to be traditionally, which is be sad, stop. We can stop and take a pause, and it can be some of the most productive time we've had.
Right.
It's how you're going to look at it.
I love your the phrase "cocooning for clarity."
Mhm.
I have used that phrase or that word "cocooning" before,
Yes.
and what I have found for myself is that very often, when I'm going through a challenge and depression seeps in, I feel lost and confused. And if I will cocoon, the clarity usually comes for me afterwards. And what's happening for me now is I'm actually doing some I'm really working with the body and doing some journaling, art with the body, and as well as words.
Wow.
And what does my body need? What does my emotion? Does my heart need? What does my spirit need? And sometimes I'll draw something, and the meaning of it won't really come until later.
That's right.
And so, yeah, so what I'm finding is that cocooning process, very often for me, the clarity comes afterwards.
Yes.
I'm in this sort of mist of darkness, or, mist of just, challenging emotion. But my motto has been, I can feel bad, I can feel uncomfortable, and still get things done.
Yes, it's that whole piece of the narrative. What is your narrative around the valley states and the depressed state? And if your narrative and you come into full agreement with the whole bottom has to drop out, all is lost, well, you've just set yourself up to fully experience that. But when you step back and say, hold on, that first step is getting straight. If I can't get anything else straight, I can at least make the agreement that this is a process. I'm going through something. I will come out of it. I just want to hold my hand as I'm going through it, even if there's no one else there, because isolation is a problem.
Yeah,
It's a pandemic, the pandemic of isolation in
right.
this world. So even if no one is next to me, I'm going to hold my hand through this.
Yeah,
So everything starts with the internal messaging. Doesn't have to be anything high powered, but just simple supportive messaging.
right.
That's how we can move into some refreshed states,
Yeah.
even inside of depression.
Yeah. So let's talk about the resiliency model because I recently, a year and a half ago, completed a training in trauma resiliency, and it really opened my eyes to what's happening in the brain
Yes.
and to how the body stores trauma. And then just a week ago, we had Dr. Gabor Mate's wonderful summit on the wisdom of trauma. Have you
Nice.
seen that documentary?
No, but I will check it out.
It's amazing. It's a one, and he did some great interviews. And, it just confirms that trauma is not so much what happens to us as the support we receive or don't receive in processing
There
what
you
happens.
There you go. It's absolutely spot on. There was a team of psychologists at North Carolina State University started doing a lot of this work. They spearheaded this in the post-traumatic growth um, field, which really goes beyond traditional resilience models of come on, you can do it, bounce back. It specifically asks you to repurpose. It's how you are processing this trauma and stress. And it asks you to identify the benefit. How did you grow? And really stepping inside of the benefit and living it out fully, which is the difference between you can see. So this work, in all of these years, I've had an opportunity in many instances to work with family members. But the most fascinating has been when I've worked with siblings, and you can see raised in the same environment, generally the same physical resources, but a trauma can happen in that family, and one member of the sibship, one sister or brother, they rise up, they will process that and say, you know what, yes, my parents are divorced. It was traumatic. There was domestic violence. But you know what? The benefit is because of that, I'm absolutely committed to parenting from a heart centered
Yeah.
place. And that is my commitment. And then the other sibling, you know what? This absolutely destroyed me. I can't have good relationships because I didn't see good relationships modeled for me. My parents screwed me up. I've had this scenario on a few occasions in my practice, and you look and say, well, my goodness, that's two dramatically different takes on the same situation. But one said, you know what? I'm going to choose, decide. And they took that process, they identified the benefit, and they decided, I'm going to pack my bags and live inside of this defined benefit. And that is another powerful way we can work with that energy of depression in the same way. This is happening. I do need to sit with this. I need to honor what is going on. But I also want to take away my goodie package from this, or my defined benefit. Quite frankly, I think it's a beautiful way to live your entire life, because Lord, no, we know there's enough that's going to go on
Right.
already happening. You better start processing something.
Yeah. Years ago, almost 24 years ago, when my son Logan was killed after a car accident, I realized, the ego wants to know, why me? Why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to my son? And finally, I realized there are no good answers. There are no good answers to that question. And I wondered about the question, why not me?
Mm,
And I began to realize that suffering is a part of the human condition. And this grieving the loss of my son, uh, this was part of that, this was perhaps the biggest way that I'm going to share in the sufferings of the world. This is a way I can participate in the sufferings of the world. And a lot of us who we facilitate grief retreats, we do grief coaching. Many of us recognize what Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross realized at the very end of her life. She was the one who had the 5-stage,
Yes.
the model of grief and grieving, which is shock, denial, anger, depression, bargaining, and then into acceptance. But at the end of her life, as she worked with David Kessler, one of her, I guess I would say, apprentices, they realized that there's a 6th stage of grief, and it's what you've just been talking about. It's making meaning.
I love, see, I just get chills when you said that, making meaning, because let me share a story for those who will tune in to this interview. We met on a retreat experience in California, and my very first interaction with you was we had stepped off of the bus, and for various reasons, so the conversation led to family, and I mentioned that my sister had recently passed away with stage 4 breast cancer, and very matter of fact, you were like, "Well, I'm sorry to hear that. How have you dealt with that? What has been your experience with that?" And really, no one had checked in to that point, not in such a direct way. What has been your process? So when you say making meaning, I think that, as tragic as it is to lose a child, the meaning that you have made out of it being the embodiment of soothing, compassionate responses, care. I mean, to the point where, nearly a perfect stranger at that point would have been comfortable to start. I was comfortable and I just started talking about it. That's beyond making meaning of it. It's like you repurposed. You
Yeah,
actually stepped into the the benefit of the wounding.
yeah, yeah,
What could I take from this? And so it's multiplied and just healed so many lives because you live inside of it. It really defines post-traumatic growth. It's like you packed your bags. This is where I live now. Whoever, you
You
know,
know, I have to say, we were talking earlier about the kids who grew up in a traumatized household, and they take it different ways. I years ago, probably about 6 months after Logan died, someone told me about the group Compassionate Friends. It's an international support group for parents of children who have died. And so I looked it up. I found my way to the closest meeting. And by this time, 6 months later, I had already experienced the shock, and the numbness had worn off. I was well into the waves of anger and depression and sort of this bargaining and just, the regret, all the things. And I had already experienced many waves of those when I came and sat in the meeting. And I didn't realize it, but I was scanning. So we sat in a big circle, and we all shared. And I was paying attention to uh, to the other parents and how long it had been since their child had died. And I recognized that I am sitting in a room with people who have gone through horrible trauma. I mean, some of their children's deaths were far more traumatic than my own. Logan was a passenger in a car. The driver went off the road into a ditch, hit a utility pole, which came down on top of my son. So pretty traumatic. And yet, there were people in that room whose children had been killed by the police. So, on the scale of trauma, if we're going to measure that, far more traumatic than my own. And yet, and I realized afterwards that what I was scanning for is, what meaning have you made? Where have you taken this? And there were parents 20 years on from their child's death who were still angry and bitter and railing and blaming whoever they felt was responsible. And there were parents 20 years on from their child's death who were in a place of peace. Their nervous systems were settled. They
Yes.
could talk about the child and the joy of having that child in their heart and in their life. And I left that meeting with a very clear, so much gratitude for both sets of parents, because they were clearly showing me who I wanted to be and who I didn't want to be.
Yes.
And I made that clear decision at that time. I don't want Logan's life to be remembered, and for me to share that anger and that bitterness and that almost meanness. That's not what I want
Yeah.
to turn this into within myself. I want to alchemically work with this grief and this loss to make me a more compassionate, more lighthearted person, and
Yes.
honor Logan in that way, because he was very lighthearted and compassionate. So I wanted his I wanted this loss to make me better and not bitter. And I have so much gratitude for the people who showed up at that meeting, who kind of played out both sides of the spectrum,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that I could clearly see, just like those siblings who said, okay, I'm looking at mom and dad and I can clearly see who I don't want to be. And that's the meaning I'm going to make out of this.
Well, it's the opportunity to pack the bag and decide where you want to live. You could pack a little bag and say, oh, I'm just going to stay right here. And that is when the resentment, because it would be so easy to do, is to sit, how unfair, how unfair. But there are all manner of transformational opportunities if you will take it. I know that when my sister passed away, and it really got me on this trajectory of researching the afterlife. It's really one of my favorite. I'm into it, this bridge between the here, these lives we live, and what's coming next. But I discovered so much about the energy of losing someone when they move on. And I firmly believe that our grief, heavy grief and resentment, ties them to us in a way that is not healthy for them either spiritually. I believe that the love continues, the relationship continues, certainly in a different form, but this is so temporary anyway. We're going to be with them very, very quickly. So it opened up so many little portals of benefits and learning, and how do I want to give her a living memorial. So we have choice inside of sadness and depression. And I try to talk to people about that all the time. And if you don't at least open your eyes to these portals of opportunity that are available, it is my belief that if you sit in that space too long, you start to not only sink down, but back. You're going to go backwards. And it's a very painful thing.
Yeah.
We are being asked with every loss, every disappointment, we are being given opportunities to expand and grow. Big opportunities. And if those are missed, you really do miss your life, because you can't, there's really there's nothing else like this. To me, this is a very difficult university. And these are courses that present themselves. Okay, Sheila, this is your course and loss. This is your course in dignity. This is your course in hard work or dealing with disappointment. So if you keep declining the courses, what do you learn?
Right, right. So I want to, and I appreciate your research of the afterlife. And as you know, I've had out of the 13 of my inner circle whose deaths I have midwifed, I've had 7 shared death experiences, and I've had so many after death communications, I can't number them. It's yeah. So for me, when we die, we graduate. It's not, for the one whose consciousness departs the body, it's not a sad thing unless their loved ones and the people that they cared so much about, um, if they go into a dark place, a difficult place,
Yeah.
if they don't move well through the portal, I believe it does affect our loved ones. Um, so I can sense sometimes when I'm doing a space clearing for a client or a personal clearing, someone that they love who's graduated will come into the session and just have some words,
Yeah.
just have a message, which
Yeah.
always has a tremendous meaning. And I would love to, um, part of what I love doing is helping people have a deeper respect for their intuition and for the spirit of their home and the spirit of the land they live on, and for the ancestors, the ones in the next realm who may be
Yes.
trying to get their attention. So, and I've wondered myself, and maybe you've wondered this too. Do you think this capacity to have shared death experiences and after death communications, do you think this is just a spiritual gift that some people have and some people don't have? And uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a good question. I think it is a gift that is granted to everyone. The distinction is to the extent that you are open to it and want to cultivate it. There's a very rich, vast mountain of support, love, opportunities, messages. It's vast. That said, we get to choose, and you get to decide how much of yourself you want to open up to that. For me, I find as I get older, it expands more and more because I have seen the beauty and benefit. I mean, people would may hear me say things, oh, really? Did that happen? Yes. I asked my sister before she passed, I said, listen, some of my loves and interests. When you get over there, would you please? I asked her to do 3 specific things for me, very specific. That I'm like, they're very specific because I have to know what's coming from you. And in under about 45 days, I had all 3 signs. And I knew before she gave me that, but it was such an affirmation of what is available to us. I know that she's fine. She was a florist before she passed. And, these beautiful, I'll see these butterflies, and I keep fresh flowers in my home at all times, just as a memorial, living memorial to her. And it has opened up this rich opportunity to experience how the relationship continues. I do hear her. I do. I was talking to her son the other day, and she said, thank you so much for keeping in touch with him and keeping my spirit alive. And I heard that in my spirit. It wasn't like a doorbell, but it depends if to the extent that you want to develop that gift.
right.
You can leave it on your front porch if you want. I don't think God is offended. Or you can say, you know what? I'm here in this place. I'll take all the help I can get.
Yeah,
So I think we all have it.
yeah,
It's just to the extent of how you want to open yourself up.
right. And I've seen people in my inner circle who've gone they've gone into an intellectual course of study where they really needed that left logical linear memorizing brain activated, and for a while they've lost some of the more emotional intelligence or the spiritual intelligence, and depending on their choices, maybe all of that can be reclaimed. but to one of my favorite books on this topic was written by a lawyer, actually, and it's called The Joy of Dying. And the cover of the book surprised me. It's got a big sunflower on the front, but she did all this research back through the ages of what people were reporting um, around after-death communications, and what she came to believe working, as an attorney with people who were preparing for death.
Wow.
So anyway, that's a beautiful topic, and I feel like if we'll open the right hemisphere of the brain and to be a little bit more holistic and creative, we can have those connections. I call them my team.
Me too. I call them my family.
Yeah, I have a team of loved ones who have already graduated. They're waiting for me in the next realm, as well as doing whatever work they're doing and learning and growing. And I can't wait to be reunited with my team.
Yeah, I truly, the more I learn about um, death, dying, what it truly is, um, there is an anticipation. The fear, the fear has given way to, you know, wow, this is going to be very cool. So it heightens awareness, but creates more urgency as well to learn and to grow and to get as much out of this experience as possible, because something tells me that um, the way this is configured, how our lives, how we learn, the interplay between human beings, it's a rare opportunity. It's not like, oh, let me just do it over. There may be an opportunity, but it'll be a monumental task. So it's like, let's focus on what we're doing
Yeah,
so that we can really feel we've earned our graduation.
yeah,
Don't you really want to have the party, the big graduation? These are courses, these are classes we're taking, but don't you want to walk across the stage, the real stage, and like, you know what? No one's perfect, but I really, I
right.
tried. I tried.
Yeah. One thing I do want to talk to you about before we finish, there, you know, there are people who are dealing with things like adrenal fatigue or any of the sort of, "Hmm, she has just gone away." So I'm going to just go ahead and keep recording, hoping she'll come back into the room. Um, my inquiry is around people who have a fatiguing illness, a fatiguing challenge, a physical challenge, and how we can support our mind. Because a lot of what Sheila has been talking about is the way we're holding what happens to us, the way we're mentally holding what is happening, the way we're processing it emotionally, yes, but the structure for that processing, I think, is mental. And I'm just in the inquiry myself as I go through my own process with fatigue and just needing a slower pace. Um, I'm just in the inquiry myself of, uh, here she is. Here you are. Yay. I stayed recording. I'm just describing this inquiry that I'm in with myself. As I mentioned to you earlier, I've got this sort of need for a slower pace. And what do you recommend for people who are dealing with physical challenges that are fatiguing?
Yes, I have a lot of recommendations. The first is listen to your body. Fatigue is telling you something. It may not always be a medical problem. It's not a bad idea to go to make an appointment For some folks who are listening, that may not be an option for them for various reasons. But my secondary piece of advice is slow down. I like to ground my body. There's a few ways to do it. I'm a huge fan. I don't know if you take baths in rock salt, very calming. I like to go outside, take my shoes off, literally put my feet in the ground. It's calming as you're doing that visualization of just, I am deeply connected to Mother Earth. So we want to work to really ground our energy, because sometimes that's what your body is saying. I just need you to stop. You don't have to stop forever, but I just need you to stop.
Right.
My second recommendation is to create what I call layers of harmony and joy around you. What do I mean by that? That is taking some time to sit, be with people of a like vibration. And you know what? If they're not even of a like vibration, hell, if they just make you laugh, you want to be doing things when you are fatigued to recharge. Raising the vibration with people you enjoy and laughter can be very powerful. Listen to your body, repurpose that messaging. What do I need to do to pour some things back into me? You don't have to book a trip. It can just be very simple things. I love to stop, get my green tea, light my candle, do some journaling, listen to some empowering YouTubes. It's really simple things all taken together that give us those classic resets. We're not in the habit of renewal, and we really do need daily renewal so that we don't hit these walls. And a lot of people don't do it. Oh, I renew when when I'm like this, when I'm slumped over. We need little pieces of daily renewal. Mind, body, spirit. Doesn't have to take all day.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love the layers of harmony and joy. That's just beautiful. And, for me, with all my work around decluttering, organizing, feng shui, clearing the space, it's really allowing the body of your home to be one of those layers of harmony and joy.
Yes, yes, the layers of harmony and joy. I really believe in this because I went through a time in life where my living environment, I felt it. It had a very heavy, and it was heavy because I was so heavy at that time. Just it was this oppressive weight of this negative energy. We all go through phases. I was, just constantly, I wasn't living in gratitude, all of this. So what I've discovered over time and over the years is the vibration you set in your environment, how that feels, that has everything to do with what is emitting from you.
Yeah.
It has everything to do. And it's so interesting that as my vibration came up, my heart opened more for people, for humanity, for the community. Correspondence. And Emanuel Swedenborg talks a lot about correspondence. The colors that I preferred in my house changed. Now it's light color. It's like,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, I used to prefer this kind of like the heavy wood, the dark. Now it's like all pastel, gray, yellow. So it's been interesting to see this metamorphosis. But we really need to understand that the shape, the feel, the texture of our lives. Let's look in the mirror and
Yeah.
understand that much of this it comes from us energetically. So we have to do the work to renew and set those conditions up.
Yeah. Oh, Sheila, thank you so much. This has been just a delightful interview. I am so grateful. And if you would send me the depressed but productive links,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would like to put that in the show notes for people. And
yeah.
anything else you'd like to direct people to, I will have your social media links and all of that in the show notes. But thank you so much for being with us today. I've really appreciated your wisdom.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.